A deafening bark exploded through the West Wing lounge. It carried all the violence and menace of a predator ready to tear something apart. A split second later came the sharp crash of a glass vase shattering against the floor. "Shit! That's Nero!" The patrolling bodyguards in the hallway immediately went pale. Nero was the most vicious Doberman in the entire Carlos estate, a purebred military working dog, enormous in size and built like solid steel. He had torn out the throats of countless intruders and assassins over the years. Even seasoned bodyguards gave him a wide berth. Now, hearing that bark, several men instinctively reached for their sidearms. The lounge doors flew open, and the scene waiting inside hit them like a freight train. Every guard froze. Several guns remained suspended awkwardly in mid-air. The massive black Doberman that normally terrified grown men into silence had been backed into the corner beside an expensive leather sofa, and the person responsible was Albie. Dressed in loose silk pajamas and fluffy house slippers. In one hand, Albie held a pink ballet tutu covered in lace and glittering sequins. In the other, a bottle of aggressively bright neon pink pet nail polish. "Listen, Nero." Albie pointed solemnly at the tutu. "You wear black every day. It's depressing. You look like some grumpy old man attending a funeral." He lifted the skirt. "Pink is your color. Trust me. Put this on, and you'll be the prettiest princess in the entire Mafia." A low growl rolled from Nero's throat. His white teeth gleamed beneath the sunlight. "Mr. Albie!" The head of security nearly had a heart attack. "Step away from the dog. He'll rip your throat out." He immediately aimed his pistol at Nero, terrified that the beast was seconds away from turning the estate's fragile little hostage into scattered body parts. Albie didn't even bother turning around. Instead, he crouched down and dangled the tutu in front of Nero's nose. Then he patted his knee and slipped into the embarrassingly sweet voice normally reserved for puppies and kittens. "Oh, sweetheart, don't listen to those boring men in black suits. Come here. Be a good boy and give Mommy— No, give Big Brother your paw." The bodyguards collectively stopped breathing. Then the impossible happened. Nero's body had been rigid with tension. His ears twitched. The growling stopped. His cropped tail suddenly began wagging. Violently, like a helicopter rotor trying to take off. A pitiful little whine escaped him. The next instant, the giant Doberman launched himself forward. The guards nearly fired. But instead of attacking Albie, Nero knocked him flat onto the thick wool rug like an overgrown puppy. His enormous tongue immediately went to work. Slobber everywhere, relentless. "Ha! Stop! Nero, stop!" Albie collapsed into helpless laughter. "That tickles! Stop licking me!" He pushed uselessly against the giant black head. "You're going to ruin my hair! Behave yourself! We still have your manicure to do!" As if he understood every word, Nero immediately backed off. He sat down obediently on the rug. Then he raised one enormous front paw and placed it in front of Albie, waiting. The guards stared in stunned silence. They genuinely wondered whether someone had secretly replaced the dog. This was the same animal that had chased 3 professional assassins into the woods and torn them apart. Now he looked like a pampered Pomeranian waiting for a grooming appointment. At that moment, a tall shadow stretched across the doorway. Caius entered the lounge. His stride was calm and measured as always. He had changed into a fresh charcoal gray suit. His tie was perfectly aligned. When he heard the commotion in the West Wing, he'd assumed Albie had finally succeeded in getting himself killed. Then he saw the room. For perhaps the first time in recent memory, a crack appeared in Caius's usually flawless composure. Nero, his war dog, the animal that had stood beside him through firefights, ambushes, and assassination attempts. The living symbol of the Carlos family's ruthlessness, was currently sitting upright with military discipline, while wearing a fluffy pink lace tutu. All 4 massive paws had been painted an eye-searing shade of fluorescent pink. Under the sunlight, the claws practically sparkled, like a public service announcement for love and peace. Caius remained silent for a long moment. The security captain approached cautiously. "Boss, should we remove the skirt?" "Don't touch anything." Caius cut him off without looking away. A single raised hand dismissed everyone. The guards practically fled in relief. Once the doors closed behind them, Caius finally walked farther into the room. Albie was currently holding Nero's face between both hands. At the sound of approaching footsteps, he glanced up and arched an eyebrow. "Well, boss, any thoughts on your new general?" He gestured proudly toward the dog. "I think pink really complements his coloring." Caius didn't answer. He simply looked at him. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It gilded Albie's laughing face in gold. The rough housing had completely loosened his collar. Pale skin and smooth collarbones peeked from beneath the rumpled silk. A few strands of black dog hair clung stubbornly to him. Messy, disorderly. Alive. More alive than anything else in the room. Caius slowly lowered himself onto one knee before him. The movement shortened the distance between them. The scent of cedarwood and faint tobacco immediately surrounded Albie. Without his gloves, Caius's hands looked even more striking. Long-fingered, clean, powerful. This time he didn't seize Albie's chin. Instead, he gently caught his wrist between two fingers and pulled him to his feet. Albie rose without resistance. His balance faltered. He stumbled slightly forward, nearly colliding with Caius's shoulder. Caius lowered his gaze. A tiny smear of pink nail polish remained on Albie's right cheek. He didn't reach for a handkerchief. Instead, his thumb brushed against Albie's skin. Slowly, carefully. The touch was surprisingly gentle. Back and forth. Again and again. The rough texture of his thumb worked the dried paint free from Albie's cheek. Each pass sent an uncomfortable warmth crawling beneath Albie's skin. "You ruined my guard dog, Albie." Caius's voice was low, rougher than usual. "Who's supposed to protect my estate now?" Albie's heartbeat skipped. He turned his head slightly, trying to escape the intimacy of the touch. His mouth, however, remained as reckless as ever. "You don't need a guard dog, boss." His eyes flicked upward. "That face of yours is much scarier." Something flickered deep within Caius's gaze. Amusement, affection. Gone almost before it appeared. His hand finally left Albie's face. As he straightened, he casually patted Nero's head. The supposedly fearsome Doberman immediately let out a delighted whine and wagged his tail hard enough to shake his entire body. "The skirt looks good." Caius glanced down at the dog. From now on, Nero wears it whenever he's in the estate. Albie blinked. For perhaps the first time, he looked genuinely surprised. Apparently, even he hadn't expected the cold-blooded tyrant to indulge his nonsense this far. "And one more thing." Caius reached the door. His long fingers settled on the handle. He turned his head slightly. The faintest curve touched the corner of his mouth. Barely visible. Dangerously attractive. "Since you enjoy dressing dogs and painting their nails so much," his gaze landed on Albie. "You'll be responsible for grooming him from head to tail today." A brief pause. "That's your punishment."